Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Bushwick. So, I, of course, really enjoy this movie. We have both of these characters in this film who either one end up coming back to a home of which that they have had in the past, or we have currently a person who is to be living in this environment that all of a sudden becomes a war zone out of nowhere. And so both Stoop and Lucy end up needing to figure out why this has all happened. And so we have both of these characters that, yeah, they do go on and do a lot of just running around through a part of this town, but still, I thought it was so interesting how this all plays out, and especially the way that this movie is to end for our characters was just like, wait a minute, what? That's how you want to go on and finish up a film? Okay, all right, like I'm won over. Like, give me something different. So, with that said, like, especially with how this movie just starts, like, I was like, okay, that's an unusual way to start a film. So much about this is so interesting. And also, like, while I was going through the opening scene of the kind of the rollouts of the credits, I saw that Dave actually went on to also executive produce this movie beyond just kind of just starring in it. So good for him. Yeah, like I know a lot of people go on and just kind of take that route so they can kind of have either more control or whichever, or just kind of want to like get their own input about a film, and that's always great. So with that said, let's go on and let's try and tee up this movie, because really there's a lot of like I said, there's a lot of running around going on in this film, so I have to kind of slim down what the actual teeing up part of this film is, because it's a lot of action, it's a lot of adventure. And so with that said, teeing it up, so we have Lucy, who is coming back home to her grandmother and her sister, and she's bringing a boyfriend with her. And so Lucy is to have, at some point when she's walking from this subway with her boyfriend, see a man completely burst into flame. So it's like, okay. So Lucy is completely baffled and confused about what is going on. So the further and further that Lucy goes on and investigates, the more she stumbles upon a guy named Stoob, who is mentioning that he's going to Hoboken and that he is going to reunite with his son and his wife. And so Lucy's just like, okay, all right. And so Stoob, of course, is to be this janitor character who he is to have much more of a backstory than just being a plain old janitor. This isn't the Under Siege movie where we have Steven Seagal who's like, I'm only a cook, and then like that's all he is. Kind of like also when we had the Dawn of the Dead remake movie, where the guy just goes on and states like, yeah, I just sell TVs. I'm just smart just because I sell TVs. So anyways, we have Soup and we have Lucy, who come to find out that the enemies that they are fighting are actually to go on and be much more common everyday people than they would imagine. And at some point, when they go on and interrogate someone to find out more information, come to find out the information might not be something that they want to hear. But, anyways, so Lucy is trying to get to her grandmother, is to try to get to her sister, and then at some point we start to have Lucy who is to need to go on and do these certain missions to help out certain people in the neighborhood and the community, and that all leads to eventually what happens towards the end of the film, which I'll have to be, of course, just let's roll out into the double 5 time territory. Let's just go into spoilers because I think it's about that time to just go into spoiler territory. I would say Bushwick is in all honesty, it's a solid, good movie. So definitely thumbs up. Would recommend it. Currently, it's available on Tubi, TUBI. It may justifiably enough be available on other apps, but Tubi is the one that I just conveniently mentioned that this movie is to be on. So with that said, I think it's about that time to just go into double 5 time territory, because it's about that time again to go into spoiler time. It's about that time to spoil this movie. So, Lucy is with a boyfriend named Jose. And so Lucy is coming off some subway, and so Lucy's telling Jose about her sister and how they may not need to hold hands in front of her, and Jose is asking Lucy, it's like, well, yeah, like, your parents know I'm coming, right? Or your family knows I'm coming, right? And Lucy's like, well, yeah, like, I just didn't have time to talk to them. And Jose's like, really? And Lucy's like, well, I'm sure they'll accept you. And Jose's like, wow, okay. And then Lucy's like, I'm joking. I told them all about you. They know you're coming. And so he's like, oh, thank God. Like, you were giving me, like, a horrible nightmare. And so, anyways, while Lucy and Jose are continuing to make their way through the subway, walking from place to place, hearing an emergency frequency that they're like, okay, like, I don't know what that was. So Lucy and Jose make their way to spot a man who is on fire, and if that is an unusual way to start a film, they then go on to make their way to this flight of stairs, which is to lead them outside. And so Jose is telling Lucy, it's like, well, hey, I'll go first. And so Jose ends up going out there to then come falling back down the stairs because Jose is now dead from, I guess, a bomb or a fire, a mixture of things. This guy's half of his face is gone. So Lucy is to go on and tell Jose, it's like, I'll go get help. I'll tell, just. So Lucy starts to make her way to the streets. And so we have at one point where Lucy is to not know what's going on, not knowing who the good guys and the bad guys are. We even have at one point where Lucy is to see a couple of cops. She's trying to, like, wave them down, and the cops end up getting killed by a number of these revolutionary characters, revolutionary fighters, which is to be the guys that are in black throughout this movie, and the resistant fighters are like the residents of this place that are trying to fight back. That's what I'll call them to be. So we have Lucy that ends up getting caught by some of these revolutionary men. And so they end up zip tying her, and then all of a sudden we have these like this gang, this or just guys in a car, going and doing a drive by, and so they start shooting these revolutionary men, killing them off, and so we then have Lucy, who is to get back up and continue to just make her way through the streets, just randomly going into just any location to figure out where she's really just to go next. And that leads Lucy to spot two men shooting someone just randomly. So Lucy is to realize that these guys were to have seen her witness this crime. So Lucy starts running off to this this kind of underground home, where of course she had to kind of open these double doors to get down. And so we have these two men that are kind of looking in this place as like somebody lives here. It's like, man, this smells awful. So all of a sudden when Lucy then does appear, they grab her, and we have these two men that are just stating that they are, of course, like they live here, like the residents here. And so Lucy is just trying to like beg for her life at this point. And so all of a sudden we have, of course, Stoop busting in, as of course Dave would normally do in any film. Every film. All the I don't know. Anyways, so Stoop goes on and starts to manhandle these guys, starts to do some like MMA takedowns and stuff like that, trying to go on, and like as one shot is to go off, and so both of these guys end up being dead. Lucy's to ask Stoop if they're dead. It's like, yeah. So all of a sudden now Stoop is to go on and start rattle off in his brain what is all possibly going on out there. And Stoop is making clear consensus about certain states, and of course, like, why are these characters going on and doing what they're doing, so on and so forth. And Lucy's like, what is going on? Like, I have no clue what's going on. And so Stoop is to really just state here that they need to go on and they need to leave, as Lucy is to find out that Stoop is just a janitor, because she ends up asking him, it's like, well, with the skills this guy has, like, he must be like in the military or he must be a cop. And so Lucy asks him that. It's like, no, I'm just a janitor. But come to find out, we're gonna realize later in the film, Stoop was actually a Marine, and he was to have gone on and been a medical doctor, like a doctor in the Marines. So, and so anyways, let's push on. So we have Stoop and we have Lucy, and they decide to, first off, because they need a place that is to go on and be cover. Because when Stoop and Lucy start making their way out to start walking around, they come to find out that there is a sniper around them. So they end up having this dumpster kind of dragging it around as cover, but then Stoop is a spot that there is to be this school, and it's like, well, hey, how about we go into this school? So Stoop and Lucy goes into this school, and we have one teacher who's already dead on the side here. So they really just, for the most part, like, follow this stairwell, because every time they try to go into these other areas that lead to possible classrooms, they end up hearing the revolutionary guys kind of making their way. So they're like, okay, let's go back in the stairwell. To the point to where both Lucy and Stoop kind of, again, follow this stairwell, leading them into this possible library. And we all of a sudden then have both Lucy and Stoop that need to fight off these men. We have Stoop that goes on and shoots one of them and drops a bunch of these book racks and kind of has them topple on to one another. Stoop and Lucy run out of this room, and there's a grenade being called, and the door that Stoop was by ends up breaking because it has glass in it, and all of a sudden we now have Stoop who has glass in his leg. Both Stoop and Lucy make their way to the roof as they go on to put a wood piece over the door, because conveniently there is to be this kind of weird locking mechanism. But hey, like, we just have to buy into it because movie. So, Stoop and Lucy go off to this roof, and so now Stoop is going to need to get this glass out of his leg. So, Stoop is a corpsman, doctor, so he immediately knows how to go on and do this. So what he goes on and does, he has this road flare and he puts a knife to it, and so what he does is he pulls the glass piece out, puts the knife, and is to hold it there for 5 seconds as it had burnt from the road flare. And so we then desperately have Stoop who's telling Lucy for her to go on and do the other side because Stoop is bleeding out. So Lucy goes on and puts the knife after she burns it with the road flare. She puts it onto his leg, waits 5 seconds, and then Stoop has Lucy bandage Stoop's leg. So we have Lucy that asks Stoop, it's like, man, you sure know a lot about like bandaging and so on and so forth. And Stoop is like, yeah, I watch a lot of ER. Yeah. Sure you do. Like, this guy is such a liar. So, and it's great, and I love it. I love how at some point we get the real truth out of this guy. So we have Stoop and Lucy, and so they leave the school, and they're making their way because, of course, Lucy needs to go to her grandmother's, and Stoop is just going to Hoboken. So, like, for him, it's just like he's like coming up with something for where Lucy might have no interest to go to. So, while Stoop and Lucy go on, they end up finding this convenience store where it seems a number of people are just all stealing all of the product. And Lucy ends up finding Mr. Argo, I believe his name is. And so Lucy is coming to find out that this guy has a stab wound that he will die from as soon as we have Lucy, who is to get an explanation from the store owner what had happened to him. So we have Stoop, who is going on and listening to the radio, thinking that he can probably get some kind of information out of that. So it seems that, again, a war is still breaking out here. And so Lucy is to leave with Stoop again to just continue to move. So as we go on here. We have Lucy that is to, of course, see someone almost killing someone. And Lucy, of course, has never kind of held a gun in her life. And so Stoop had to tell her how to use it after he was to go on and get his leg bandaged. So when Lucy is to see someone shooting someone almost, Lucy shoots them, they fall back, and they die. And so we then have Stoop who runs to this guy and is to realize, like, well, like, this guy is not going to like live at this point, but hey, I can just give him like drugs for the pain of it all. So Lucy, come to find out, is to shoot off her wedding finger and or have her wedding finger get shot off is what I wanted to say here. So Soup is to just tape Lucy's hand and is to tell her that once they go on and they get to Lucy's grandmother's, then they'll take care of her hand there. Soup also calls Lucy stupid because, like, why did you just waste the bullets on that guy? We could have just kind of walked off and, like, he could have shot that guy and so on and so forth. So we have Stoop and we have Lucy continuing on. And so we have a moment where Stoop and Lucy are seeing a lot of revolutionary members kind of making their way to a certain road. And Lucy's like, well, I'm going. And Stoop is like, hey, like, come on. So Lucy is way ahead of Stoop. And so Lucy ends up getting to her grandmother's home. And so Lucy, of course, was very terrified because her grandmother doesn't know any better, and so she just kind of worried of what was to happen to her. So Lucy goes to her grandmother's place. Come to find out, Lucy's grandmother was to have a heart attack and die by what all happened. So that's what I'd naturally assume. You can't really tell by the body. It's not like there's a significant wound or they state anything, but that's what I would like to just assess, that this girl just died and had a heart attack instead of getting shot. So they place the body onto this bed and Lucy just kind of covers it up. And so Stoop goes on to look to see how much time that they probably have. So Stoop then tries to go on and sew up Lucy's finger. Having, of course, Stoop also give Lucy drugs that Lucy is to state is like, wow, I'm feeling good. Like, I'm feeling better. Whoa, what did you give me? So we then have Stoop and Lucy, after the wound and everything is taken care of, they then go on to Lucy's sister's place. And so when Stoop and Lucy go to Belinda's place, we go on to find out that Belinda is like oblivious of what's going on because she has been hitting bong hits all frickin' day long. And Belinda is just mentioning that somebody is like cranking up the volume of Call of Duty, and like she's been hearing like gunfire and things going off all day long. And Lucy is telling Belinda, it's like, wait a minute, like, you really don't know what's going on here, do you? And Belinda's like, no. because this girl probably had been sleeping all day, or rationally with this girl just being in her undies and a robe, there isn't much to go on and but realize that this girl has just kind of been in her place all day. So Lucy goes on to explain what's going on, and that also their grandmother had died, and so they hug one another, they embrace. So while that's going on, we have, of course, Lucy, who is to kind of leave the room, and so we go on to have Belinda, who is to go on and still like crank up her bong. And so we have at one point where Belinda is kind of throwing herself at Stoop, where she's kind of opening up her robe and is to have Stoop be looking at Belinda's underwear, and is to have Stoop figure out what is to be on her underwear, which is to be technically a cat, let's just say. So, really having Belinda, like, really just right in this guy's face, just like, hey, you want some of this? Because the world's ending. So, Stoop does not want anything to do with Belinda or Lucy as far as effing either one of them. Because, of course, that's what Belinda asks. It's like, well, hey, are you going to F her? Like, are you going to F her over? And Stoop is like, I don't want to do any of that. Like, I just want to help. So, we also had at some point here that Belinda's bird had flew away. Probably because of all the bong hits that were going on. The bird was like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta breathe. So, we have at one point where a revolutionary guy is to come through Belinda's window. And so we have Stoop that goes on and is to grab this guy. And there's not much as far as like wrestling moves here. There seems to be like Stoop ends up going on and doing like another like takedown for this guy. He ends up like smashing him against like a couple of these cupboards, and then does like a normal takedown. So Stoop ends up now interrogating this guy and questioning this guy. And so come to find out, this guy who is Lieutenant Brewer is to then help us understand what is really going on here. So come to find out, Texas is to want its own independence from the rest of the United States. And so they're going on and they're deciding that they're going to just kill off all the rest of the United States and kind of live the way they want to. So we get to have Stoop here ask, like, well, hey, who is your leader? Like, where is the DMZ, the demilitarized zone, so that way kind of people can get out of here. And so Lieutenant Brewer is not telling this guy any information. And so we have Stoop, who just gets very upset and is like, hey, I'm going to count to 3 and you're going to tell me where to go next. And so the guy goes on and is to mention about a park. So I was like, oh, okay, all right. So Stoop is telling the girls to get ready. We're going to get the F out of here. So Lucy asks Stoop, what are they going to do with this guy? And so Stoop ends up knocking him out. So they get ready to go. And so they're transitioning here. And So, like, these guys are just kind of running all over the place, all over the streets of Calcutta. It's Bushwick, that's the title. I normally say Calcutta because it's funny. But, anyways, the next thing we have is that Stoop, Lucy, and Belinda all go into this kind of apartment complex, and we have them run into a guy named JP, who seems to have a number of people with him that are to all be well armed men. Because JP has this whole basement with like this whole inventory being done. There's a whole slew of things. So JP is talking to these people, and Stoop is trying to be like, hey man, like, put your guns down. Like, we don't want to kill you. You don't want to kill us. Come on. Because they just want, like, sanctuary. They just want a place to be safe for a little bit. So we then have JP's ma, who comes into fray here and is to just like, hey, come on. Like, come up here. Like, we'll talk things out. Because Ma, of course, wants both Lucy and Stoop to go on a mission. So the mission, of course, is to and Ma just originally just wanted Lucy to go, but Stoop is like, well, hey, you can't just like have her just go out there by herself. Like, she'll probably die. So like, how about I go out there with her? And then Belinda like is stuck with JP, and they are said that they need to all go together to or meet back together at the laundromat. So Ma is to tell Lucy and Stoop to go on this mission to go to this church to talk to Father John and convince him to have everyone at that church go on to fight with them, because it seems that they have the numbers but they don't have the guns. So and they of course, JP and his ma have the guns, so they're willing to kind of give them all out, so that way like there can be a pretty substantial resistance here going up against the revolutionary guys. So Stoop and Lucy go off to this church, and Stoop is trying to help out certain people there. He goes and starts to sew people up, and so Lucy is trying to find this Father John, and so Lucy is to turn to one person, and the one person is state is like, well, like, I don't know who all is who, but like I know that there's a bunch of priests here. So Lucy continues to walk and is to meet with a priest who might be Father John, but it isn't, and so she gets directed to where she's supposed to go. So Lucy goes on and meets with Father John, who is at this point freaking losing his mind. Like, this guy is just rattling off Bible passages, and when Lucy is to start to talk to Father John, John is talking about if Lucy knows somebody that needs help, then they'll send some other preacher to pray for him, and so on. And Lucy's like, what are you talking about? And Father John just goes on and takes a gun to his own head and pulls the trigger. And so Lucy just walks away. She's like, well, I guess that mission just went nowhere. So the one priest is to ask Lucy, it's like, well, hey, what happened? And Lucy's like, hey, he did it to himself. And is like, what are you talking about? And so he runs off to find out that the preacher is dead. So Lucy then goes on to be in the church to let everybody know, like, hey, everybody, like, I'm gonna send you guys all on a mission. You guys all can come with me to this one location at this laundromat, and so we can go on and like defend our city and so on and so forth. Because we of course have Lucy, who is to have lived here at some point in time, as Lucy is to go on and state that she used to go to school at the school that they went through, and so like all of this stuff is fairly familiar to her. So we have Lucy that is to go with a group of people that are all going by this door, trying to convince Stoop to leave, and so come to find out, when these guys open the door, they realize that this is a mistake, that this isn't people that need help, it's people that are going to kill them all off. So Lucy runs off to get back with Stoop, and they start running off yet again to just go to the laundromat. So now that we have both these characters finally now here at the laundromat, we now have finally Stoop, who's going to now be very frustrated about Lucy because she has a bajillion questions, and Stoop is like, just shut the F up. Like, God, like, be patient. Like, because Lucy is coming to Stoop thinking that he has all the answers, and he doesn't. And, like, Lucy just keeps battering him with questions, and Stoop is just like, I don't freaking know. Like, stop. Like, stop. Like hitting me with all these questions. Like, I don't have an answer. So Stoop and Lucy just stay at this laundromat. So we have Lucy and Stoop who kind of sit down, and so Stoop is to mention that he was to never go to Hoboken, and the reason for that is because he doesn't have family in Hoboken. He just said that hoping that Lucy would not go on and go with him there, and so he could be by himself. So Stoop is to really mention what happened to his wife and his son, because he has this whole thing where Stoop was to mention that his wife used to call him an a-hole, but then she would go and touch his face and say, it's like, but you're my a-hole. And so we come to find out Stoop also had a son, and he was smart, and this and that. So Stoop is a state that he lost both his wife and his son because of the World Trade Center and of course September 11th, that whole event. So Stoop wanted to get justice, or like want to find somebody to blame. So Stoop enlisted in the Marines, and so Stoop at one point was to go on and then go into be a medical doctor, so that way he could go on and like save people. Maybe that'll make up for how many times that Stoop has had to take a life. So, but come to find out, Stoop had lost more people than he had saved, and so at some point Stoop just had to learn how to just try to like shut himself off. And so after that, they had to go on and just relieve Stoop of duty. They had to like medically discharge him. So after Stoop is to go on and say all of that, say all these things, we then have him mention that he needs to go and take a leak. He needs to take a whiz. So Stoop goes in this bathroom, pow! Lucy ends up going on and like being curious about what happened to Stoop. Come to find out, Stoop was to get shot and fall over and die. And so Lucy was to notice that there was a girl in this bathroom who just saw a body coming to her, and so she killed him. And so Lucy is to tell this girl to run out of here. So Lucy then is to hear some ruckus going on. Lucy grabs Stoop's body, starts to drag him. So that sound, of course, is to be JP and Belinda coming back to this laundromat. So, come to find out, Lucy is to kind of state what had happened with the whole church thing. And JP's like, no, like, you did your job. Like, seems to be a bunch of people that made their way here. And so, but here's the thing, like, the fight's outside. So, now we have Lucy and Belinda that are just going through the streets, running around, and trying to kill off all of the revolutionary guys, the revolutionary men, or women, who knows. So, while Belinda and Lucy are trying to fight these guys off or trying to shield themselves from the bullets, we have at one point where Belinda falls, Lucy is to hold this shield up, and when they go on and get up thinking that all these guys are gone, we have Lucy trying to drag Belinda because she can't get anywhere. So Lucy is now dragging Belinda, and Lucy ends up getting shot in the head and dies. So Belinda is now on Lucy's body. We have a bunch of scavengers that are all going through like Lucy's stuff, trying to help out Belinda, try to get out of there. And that's just how the movie ends. It's like, oh, that's too bad that like both of the characters that we end up seeing in title screen end up dying at some point of this film. So let me know in the comments below how you felt about Bushwick. Yeah, like a lot of running around, a lot of busy work, a lot of just like, I know that like the budget of this is kind of so-so, but either way, like I thought that this was an interesting tale of like a new civil war that has like been unplanned and so on and so forth. And so like the Americans are attacking Americans in I guess a fashion. And so of this film. So with that said, I think I'm just gonna go on and get out of here. Let me know, yeah, just let me know about this film and whatever. Goodbye everybody. Goodbye everybody.